Welcome to the Holston Valley Unitarian Universalist Church. I'm the Reverend Tiffany Sapp, and I'm so glad we can connect through the power of technology. We are still at the very beginning of our journey together here as a community, and so today I want to explore with you one of the most foundational ideas of Unitarian Universalism: covenant. Many religious movements draw their identity from statements of belief, creeds. We are different. We require no statement of faith or belief. Instead, our identities come from how we have agreed to be in relationship with each other, and that is our covenant. The Sufi Muslim mystic Rumi has a lot to say about being in relationship, and so our chalice lighting comes from his poetry. Some Unitarian Universalists with us today may recognize a lot of the words as they have made their way into one of our most familiar hymns. Following our chalice lighting, we will hear a prelude written and performed by aspiring Unitarian Universalist minister James Underberg.
Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving, it doesn't matter. Ours is not a caravan of despair. Come, even if you have broken your vows 1,000 times. Come, yet again, come, come.
Every single second there are 4 babies born, bursting into life in the blink of an eye. Each one with 1,000,000 memories they'll form, times of feeling low and times of feeling high. The first glimpse of a rainbow against the sky of blue, the first time feeling lonely, not knowing what to do. The first wish on a shooting star to make a dream come true. First time feeling broken hearted, the turn to something new. That's me, that's you, that's what we do. We ride the waves, just hope they'll carry us through. We live, we laugh, we love, and we cry. And then one day, every single second there are 2 lives mourned, dropping out of this world in the blink of an eye. Each one with 1,000,000 memories they'd formed, times of feeling low and times of feeling high. Had glimpses of a rainbow against the sky of blue, had times of feeling lonely, not knowing what to do. They wished upon a shooting star, make a dream come true. They cried out from a broken heart and turned to something new. That's me, that's you, that's what we do. We ride the waves, just hope they'll carry us through. We live, we laugh, we love, and we cry. And then one day we die. Countless different stories about how we came to be. We got different ways of loving, different sounds that we speak, different troubles, different blessings, different ways that we're treated. But one thing we share, everyone, everywhere, is a search for some meaning as we're held in suspense, dreaming and seeking, just trying to make sense. Oh, that's me, that's you, that's what we do. We ride just hope they'll carry us through. We live, we laugh, we love, and we cry, and then one day we die. And throughout it all, we shine.
I'm Beth Calvert, and I'm happy to be with you here today as your service leader. We'll sing Loving Kindness next. Please hold a light in your heart to dispel the darkness, to honor someone or some event, or to lift up a memory. Our reading today comes from Unitarian Universalist minister Reverend Misha Sanders. In this Facebook post, Misha shares her love for the covenantal orientation of Unitarian Universalism and contrasts it with her experiences in the creedal religion of her childhood. What I love so much about my covenantal faith is that it demands of me a commitment to right behavior despite my fluctuations in belief. My first faith language was creedal, which demanded of me this choice: believe, lie about believing, or leave the faith. Covenantal faith is such a relief to me because, please don't tell Journey, sometimes I stop believing just for a minute or 2 or 7 million. But good news, we do not have to believe alike to love alike. And that is what makes covenantal faith a bigger, deeper commitment to me. Choosing right behavior and right relationship over and over and over again, no matter what I believe. Coming back into covenant after I've broken my vows 1,000 times, that I can do, mostly.
What does a jar of marbles have to do with being a covenant-based community? You may have heard my marble jar story before, but it holds such an important lesson about how we can be in community together that I thought it was worth repeating. In Daring Greatly, Brene Brown tells a story from when her daughter Ellen was in grade school. At recess, Ellen chose to tell a few of her friends a secret. Not a big, dark, scary secret, probably just something about a crush or an embarrassing story. Whatever it was, though, word spread beyond the circle of friends that she had trusted, and by the time her class came in from recess, everyone knew. The gossip and the teasing was so disruptive that the teacher even had to take a whole lot of marbles out of the class's marble jar. The marble jar was this teacher's behavior reinforcement system. When the class was doing well, they got marbles added to the jar. If they did poorly, marbles were taken away. Whenever the marble jar was filled to the top, they got a party. Well, the talk about Ellen's secret was so disruptive that they lost quite a few marbles, and Ellen was mortified. When she came home, she sobbed into her mother's shoulder and declared that she would never, ever trust anyone ever again. She may have cried a child's tears, but my adult heart knows all about the anguish that comes with having your trust betrayed, and I think most of us do. Brene comforted her daughter and let her cry it out, and then they talked about the marble jar. Brene encouraged Ellen to think about her friendships as marble jars, that whenever someone supports her, keeps her secrets, shows her kindness, forgives her, includes her, they're putting a marble in the friendship jar. And whenever someone belittles her or betrays her trust, they lose a marble or two or three. Ellen's face lit up as she realized that even after her very bad day, she did actually have marble jar friends, people who had given way more than they had messed up. Trust is built slowly, one marble at a time. And that is the heart of what it means to be a covenantal community. Most of us come here from a creedal religion that bases membership and identity on a person's beliefs. And many of us, when we could no longer abide by those beliefs, left. Like Reverend Misha said, the creedal faith of her childhood only gave her 3 options: believe, lie about believing, or leave the faith. Here, we can believe or not believe. Here, freedom of thought and diversity make us who we are. It does beg the question, though, what does bring us together in all that diversity? Reverend Misha answers that we don't have to believe alike to love alike. But love is more than a feeling. It is an action or a series of actions. And that's why we have covenant. Covenant tells us what committed love in action looks like. Covenant outlines concrete behaviors for building trust together as a community. If we have learned anything from the last few years, I hope it's that humans are made for connection, that we need each other. My chaplain time has been full of stories whose lives have been threatened or whose lives have even been lost because of the lack of loving, trusting connection in their lives. This time also reminds us that we are all part of an interconnected web of life. The actions of others affect our health and happiness. Our choices around masking, distancing, and vaccinating matter because we are connected. All of this means that being committed to doing relationships well is one of the most important things that we can do as humans and as a religious community. So we have covenant. This congregation has created their own covenant that traces the boundaries of our behaviors and lifts up the aspirations of who we want to be as community. And our national organization, the Unitarian Universalist Association, also has a covenant. Our 7 principles and 6 sources are actually stated explicitly in the UUA's bylaws as our covenant. The principles and sources are the boundaries and aspirations that we have agreed to as a national faith movement, the basis for our wide web of relationships. But why do we put so much effort into covenant? Shouldn't humans just already know how to behave? Clearly, unfortunately, we don't. So we have covenant. We spell it out and do our best to live it out intentionally. This is especially important in religious communities where religious trauma is often a real and painful thing. I said earlier that many of us have come to this covenantal religion because we no longer believe the creeds of our childhood. Well, many of us have also left the faith of our childhood because of religious trauma, that we have been hurt by religious community so deeply that it's hard to trust again, and it's hard to try to be in religious community again. And religious trauma runs the gamut. We have been told that we will suffer eternally for not believing right. We have been shamed or told that God hates us for who we love. We have been subjected to hurtful behaviors when church factions struggle for power. Sometimes we are even hurt by our church leaders. Not all of us have religious trauma, but enough of us do that it will shape and influence how our community works together. Coming into a new religious community can be scary if we're carrying religious trauma. Even when it's a community like ours that explicitly states our inherent worth and dignity and our intention to do better, because trust has been broken so hard. Sometimes the marble jar hasn't just lost a few marbles. Sometimes the marble jar is laying shattered on the floor. So some folks have come to our community with a marble jar that's held together with duct tape, and some have had to get a whole new jar. But we're here trying to build community, one tentative, hopeful, trusting marble at a time. And here's the hard part. Just because we have covenant, just because we're not playing the creed game, doesn't mean that we don't mess up. Religious trauma happens inside of Unitarian Universalism too, not just outside of it. It's not enough to know that we are a relationship-based community. It's not enough to know our congregation's covenant by heart. Covenant is a practice. When Reverend Misha traced the outlines of what covenant means to her, she calls back to the Rumi quote that we used in our chalice lighting, "Though I break my vows 1,000 times." Rumi speaking of unconditional love, Misha speaking of covenantal community, Ellen and her marble jar. They all know that messing up is going to happen, but that relationship can remain. Because being a covenantal community is also about how we hold ourselves and others accountable when we mess up. Sometimes, when we've made a marble losing mistake, but we are given an opportunity to listen and learn and re-enter relationship, we can find our net sum of marbles actually increases by how we work to repair our relationship. And that takes practice, trust, and a willingness to really invest our energy in building community. This is something I'm still working on too. When I look at our congregation's covenant, I can think of ways that I haven't lived up to our ideals, which motivates me to recommit to doing better. One of the neat things about practicing covenant as a religious community is that honoring the power of connection isn't limited to those listed in the membership book of the church. We can seek and find connection and build intentional, trusting relationships everywhere we go. I've heard stories about dinner parties on back porches that take deep dives into spiritual issues. I've seen kids build communities online using apps that I don't even understand, creating sanctuaries of acceptance. And I personally have had the gift of building deeply trusting community with coworkers whose daring combination of honesty and accountability might just change who I am forever. Because interconnectedness isn't a church thing. It's an everybody thing. And practicing being in covenant here as a church can help us deepen and strengthen our connections, both here and out in our wider web of relationships. Can you believe I did an entire sermon about covenant, but didn't tell you what our covenant is here at Holston Valley? Don't worry, that is by design. We're about to see and hear our We Give Thanks video, which all by itself is an illustration of some really touching ways about how it feels to be in community together. And after that, you will hear the covenant that you all created together a few years ago. Listen to it with an open heart and with curiosity about how we can keep on putting marbles into each other's jars. And then let's go do it.
Thank you for joining with us today. Our benediction was written by the best author of all, the congregation of Holston Valley Unitarian Universalist Church. This is our relational covenant. We covenant to cherish the worth and dignity of others, to honor our differences, to practice good faith and openness, to communicate directly and honestly, to share our gifts and our gratitude in building our beloved community. To live this covenant, we will be invitational and friendly, engage in hospitality, offer our best and assume the best in others, unite for our common good and social justice, respect a free pulpit, build honor and trust, engage in ministry and service to others, see conflict as an opportunity for transformation, talk to each other rather than about each other. We close this service with a concept from the indigenous South African culture called Ubuntu, which is sometimes translated simply as humanity, but its deeper meaning is this: I am because we are.
I am so grateful to be in covenantal community with all of you here at Holston Valley Unitarian Universalist Church. Even in these times where we don't see each other as often as we'd like, I am grateful to know that we're in this together. I remember coming here as an intern. I didn't know you and you didn't know me. I brought a big empty marble jar with me, full of nothing but hope. And we slowly began to add marbles. We try a little vulnerability, it works, and we try a little more. And we have covenant to tell us how we can add marbles. And we have covenant to remind us that the marbles can be lost when we're not intentional about how we treat each other. I'm going to print our covenant out and post it in both of my offices so I can see it every day and remember who we want to be as a community. If my talk about religious trauma struck a nerve with you and you'd like to talk to me as your minister about it, I am here for you. You can find my contact information and contact information for the caring team and many others by visiting the contact page of our website in the About menu. Please visit our website or like us on Facebook to stay in touch with us and to find out how to be more involved in our community. We will post another service on YouTube next Sunday. To help protect the most vulnerable among us, we encourage everyone who is able to get your COVID-19 vaccination. And our postlude is A Friend of Mine, written by Steve Martin and Edie Brickle, performed by our own Charis Carter. If you're looking for a little extra connection with your community here, consider joining a covenant group. Next week's service is going to be all about how covenant groups have built deeper friendships here at Holston Valley, and we'd love to see you there. Let's venture into this coming week looking for our communities and tending our marble jars. And remember Reverend Misha's words, that we do not have to believe alike to love alike. Today and every day. Amen.
You've been a friend of mine for such a long, long time. Made me laugh and seen me cry, called me to say hi. The world is such a crazy place, full of joy and pain. What would I do without you, here to keep me sane? I've seen revolving doors, I've been a stepping stone. I don't know what I did wrong, why they left me alone. When everybody lets me down, you lift me up again. What would I do without you, my old faithful friend? Such a long, long time.